So I am Jason Gilchrist. I am an ecologist and lecturer at Edinburgh and Napier University in the School of Applied Sciences. And in my heart, I'm a behavioural ecologist in terms of the research work that I've done, mostly with mammals. But I've also been involved in research in stress physiology, and I've got a very strong interest in evolution and conservation biology. It's worth looking at the economics of gene drive, not just in comparison to the current control methods of grey squirrel populations, but also in terms of the oral contraceptive potential control method. So oral contraceptives will require bait stations which are selective to only allowing grey squirrels into the feeder, and then the bait is laced with an oral contraceptive which reduces the fertility of female and potentially male grey squirrels. Now that requires quite a costly input in terms of people, but also in terms of infrastructure in the long term to reduce a population, and is very unlikely to completely remove even local populations of grey squirrels. Gene drive has the potential, after the initial investment in research and development, once gene drive is released into a grey squirrel population, simplistically it has the potential to essentially self-replicate within that population with no extra cost beyond the original delivery to the population. There are of course potential additional costs and a need for safety valves in terms of the use of gene drive. So one of the common concerns associated with the use of gene drive is that there's the hypothetical situation that what if somebody traps a gene drive grey squirrel in the UK and translocates it to its native range and releases it in North America? In theory, if there's no stop on that gene drive, it could lead to a global extinction. So it's quite right that people are very concerned about the possible misuse of gene drive, as with any other gene technology. I do wonder whether if more, maybe not just scientists, so when we talked in the focus group, for example, we had a number of individuals in the room with a number of different backgrounds, and our technical knowledge within that room will have been relatively low, and lower in some than others. And I do wonder that the more that people know and understand the potential stops and safety valves, if you like, in terms of the gene drive technology, that the more forgiving or positive people would be about it. There is a tendency for there to be fearful of gene editing, and I think with gene drive in particular, the general knowledge of the technology can have attached to it this fear that it can be out of control, that once you start it you can't stop it, whereas at least in theory there is the technology to stop the gene drive. So there is a safety valve. That certainly, as an ecologist, it gives me greater confidence in the potential of the technology. I sincerely wish that we hadn't messed the planet up to quite the same or to quite as great an extent as we have done. And there is a philosophical argument that we should look to right the wrongs that we've created. Now, I think we're morally obliged to look towards righting wrongs or repairing ecosystems that we are responsible for damaging. But at the same time, I think it is important to be pragmatic and practical about that. So in the case of the grey squirrel, I believe that we should be investing time, money and effort in researching ways of limiting or reducing grey squirrel populations to benefit our natural woodlands and to benefit the red squirrel and to benefit the welfare of the grey squirrels that we are currently controlling. But at the same time, we shouldn't be fixed on doing that at all costs. And so the reason that I am in favour of further investigations into oral contraceptives or gene drive is because I feel that they have the potential to help rebalance our ecosystem. But I'm certainly not saying that they should be applied at all or any cost. I mean, so gene drive is just, so the whole issue of what do we want our world to look like, gene drive is one tool amongst a possible many towards getting to that point. One of the things which I found quite interesting in the focus group discussion was I felt that I was at the positive end of the scale, that there was really quite a lot of concern about the potential for gene drive to go wrong or get out of control. And so quite a lot of or at least some of the responses there were actually, no, we shouldn't invest in this because of what might go wrong. Where I was much more, well, let's at least look at it, and then if we determine that it's not the optimal solution, then ideally you like to think that we have the opportunity to put the brakes on. I mean, I think that there can be a tendency, even, for example, amongst the general public, because of the science fiction movies that are out there, to feel that if something is investigated or researched, that technology can go rogue. And so I wonder if that's part of the psychology of actually not wanting to encourage the investigation into the potential usefulness of the technology. It's such a potentially powerful tool across the economics, the ethics, and the ecology. If it works and it ticks the boxes that it has the potential to tick, it could be a really good game changer for everybody. But I think part of it is just this concern that nothing can be that good a solution, which is why there's these fears of, well, what if it, the causing the extinction of the grey squirrel. Now there's the whole philosophical debate of, if we take the nastiest creature on planet Earth and we had the ability to press a button and make it go extinct, would we do that? Most people would, but an ecologist like me would, I've had malaria 8 times and I still wouldn't want mosquitoes to go extinct, for example, I mean, I still appreciate that mosquitoes are part of our global ecosystem, even though they've nearly killed me indirectly, So if we can benefit human populations but still have that stop sequence, that means we have the control over it to not cause extermination and for it to not go rogue. I think as soon as you start talking about gene editing technology, there is this concern that it can involve genetic engineering for bad or evil purposes, and so I think there's a reticence amongst people for that reason. It's whether that's well founded and whether that can be overcome.